I wanted to talk about gun control as it relates to partisan politics in the United States. Um, there is this very pervasive perception, especially overseas, that gun control is, Republicans are pro-guns, Democrats are anti-gun, the NRA is pro-Republicans, and anti-Democrats, and there is a certain degree of relevance to that conclusion, but that's becoming less and less the case, and um, it's it's way oversimplified. For one reason is that Republicans are not uniformly and always forever friends of the Second Amendment. The NRA, GOA, they all rate congressmen, senators, and there are plenty of Republicans who get horrible grades from either the NRA or GOA. They'll vote for just about any kind of gun control act uh, that comes across their table. Uh, they will claim to support the Second Amendment. Everybody claims to support the Second Amendment, pretty much. Um, they just will say that banning the assault weapons ban is pro Second Amendment. On the other side, not all Democrats are that bad on the issue. Um, it is actually perhaps the biggest single swing issue that can spoil elections. So in states like West Virginia and Kentucky and Tennessee, uh, these are states that Democrats have really good chances to win most years, but if they have enough, there are enough people, blue collar, white collar, union workers, who care enough about gun rights, they will not vote for somebody they think or perceive to be anti-gun. And it's enough of them that it will spoil elections. And this is pretty well known. A lot of people do attribute this to Al Gore being defeated. Bill Clinton himself basically said as much. And so most Democrats no longer view guns as a worthwhile issue to pursue. Even if they favor bans, they just realize it's a lose-lose. Their base is still going to support them if they don't support gun control. So people who are going to vote for Democrats aren't going to not vote for Democrats because they don't pass gun control. They will not vote for them if they aren't, they don't pass universal health care, or they're bad on the war issue, or at least they should, rhetorically. And so what we've seen is that it's not a Democrat-Republican so much as that there are a few places in the country, mostly urban centers, perhaps exclusively urban centers, and not all urban centers, just a few of them, where gun control is still politically powerful. So Chicago comes to mind right away. I've seen videos of Mayor Daley giving speeches. He's got whoever the Illinois branch president of the Brady campaign right there, and they're like a big part of his campaign. In most places, the Brady campaign has essentially zero political clout. I know in my state, the Democratic governor and the Democratic House, the Brady campaign couldn't get anything. Anything they opposed, it was futile. Anything they tried to pass, futile. The governor couldn't care less what they wanted. They were a dead letter in terms of their influence. And that's true in most places. It's not true in New York City. It's not true in New Jersey. It's not true in parts of California and maybe Hawaii, Massachusetts, and certainly Chicago. And what we've seen is that the areas of the country that can still pass additional gun control have shrunk dramatically to a few areas that are geographically and in terms of population totally outnumbered. It's my experience that most politicians just have an inclination to regulate things, and they're not ideologically opposed to gun control, but It's just not worth the trouble in most cases. Now, Dianne Feinstein, she can get away with it because she's from California. Carolyn McCarthy, she can get away with it because she's from New York. In most of the states, it's not worth the trouble, and they're not going to be. They'll vote for it if they think it's safe. If the NRA endorses something, they know they can vote for it pretty safely. But otherwise, it's not worth their trouble. And so there also has been the phenomenon that the NRA is giving more money to the Democrats now, and they'll even support people like Harry Reid. And so the impression that gun rights is just a Republican thing, and gun control is a Democrat thing. The Democrats aren't too interested in it in most cases, and Republicans aren't the only people who get support. And you go out to states like Montana, every Democrat basically would be considered a radical NRA person in your average Midwestern state. So there has been a definite, there's been like no new federal gun laws since the assault weapons ban in '94. There have been some small, so the regulatory agencies like the ATF have done a lot of damage still through regulatory fiat, and there have been small medical things that are bad, but that are kind of indirect gun control. And that doesn't mean that they're okay; they're still bad. But in terms of direct gun control, almost none at the federal level. And then you see at the state levels, there's been a rollback on gun control issues, except in the few states where it's still politically possible, where there has been. You'd have to look at each state. Some of them have gotten a little bit worse, some have gotten a little bit better. You look at a state like California, it's a big state. There's a big battle. You have the big urban centers, but then you have a huge region that's not urban, that's rural basically. And I saw they tried to ban what was it? Either online ammunition sales or something, open carry. They tried to ban open carry, and it failed, but by one vote. And so it's close. It's a battleground. Most states it wouldn't be a battle. You also see now a lot of states are kind of, even though the federal government hasn't instituted any new gun control, are still unsatisfied with the current federal regulations and are taking steps to nullify federal regulations that they consider unconstitutional. These are the so-called firearms freedom initiatives. I believe the first one was passed in Montana. It's been passed in a couple other states. It's on the docket, and quite a few, almost half of them, I believe. That doesn't mean it will be passed in half of them. It will be passed in some of them, though, especially now. And the other thing is that pro-gun people, there's much more grassroots support, and they're much more persistent. So if you look at like a state like Illinois, where there is a powerful gun control lobby, the anti-gun control force is still there, and they are basically always fighting, and all it will take is one bad election for the Democrats. And again, I'm not a Republican, and I don't really support Republicans, but all it will take is one bad election, and they'll pass concealed carry or open carry or something. And once they get it passed, it's going to be really hard to unpass. And I know that the pro-gun people in Illinois, they despair a lot, but they're not going away. I just saw last year they had a huge march in Illinois of pro-gun people. The anti-gun forces in Illinois can't muster that kind of support. They have political connections, but they don't have that kind of grassroots. And eventually, I think, in the long run, nobody can resist an assault forever. And the anti-gun laws in states like Illinois, at least in Illinois, maybe not in some of the other ones, but they're basically under assault. And Look at the national organizations like the NRA. They focus their efforts on the places that haven't yet. So there's a big move to get Wisconsin and Illinois to have concealed carry, and in the case of Illinois to also get open carry. Wisconsin already has open carry, but they don't have concealed carry. And it's my understanding that Wisconsin would probably already be passing a bill like that if they weren't having their other difficulties right now. But once those difficulties are resolved, they'll probably isolate Illinois as the only state that does not allow either. So I'd say the prospects for gun rights are decent, but what we need to do is move forward. We shouldn't be happy with what we have. There are still big problems. There's still nicks. There's still bans on certain types, and just practically, if we're fighting to extend our rights, then we're not defending further losses, at least usually. And plus it's just true. I mean, those infringements should be abolished anyway. So that's a little bit off topic, but I just thought I'd talk briefly about the partisan nature of the topic.